So September is around the corner, which means the launch of new iPhones is near. But what this also means is that a lot of people will be selling their current iPhone to get the new one, and we can get a great deal out of that. But since we're not trying to get scammed, here's what to look for when buying a used iPhone. In this video we'll be talking about which nuances to look for when inspecting the phone, why the serial number may play a huge role and also be completely irrelevant at the same time, and I'll tell you some things that only service center employees know. So let's get started. First, inspect the phone for any physical damage. Look for scratches, dents, or cracks around the screen and body. Even small cracks can lead to bigger problems down the line, especially around the corners of a screen. With the way iPhones are built, their weakest point is always going to be around the corners of the screen. So this is the last place you want to see dents or cracks. Also, the glass that protects the display is so tough nowadays that sometimes it can even withstand damages that the display itself can't. So even if you don't see any cracks, the display itself might have internal damage. Sometimes this can be visible in the form of a spider web under certain lighting conditions, so definitely look out for that. However, sometimes the internal damage can be unseen. To test if a display is fine, press on an app and drag it across the whole screen, side to side and top to bottom. If the app stops following your finger in a certain place, that means the screen is not responsive in that part, which can indicate that there's internal damage. When inspecting the phone, make sure that there is no fingerprints or dust inside the camera. This will indicate if the phone has been opened or if the seals have failed. Camera lenses should be clear with no condensation or dust particles. Make sure the screen sits flush with the body and try to press on the edge to ensure it doesn't flex or bounce back. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with repair devices, especially if the repair was done by Apple. What is important though is that the seller doesn't hide this fact. Make sure to try dark and light mode or set monotone wallpapers so you can see clearer if the display has any pixel damages or discolorations. Also, make sure to look for the screws on the bottom of the iPhone. If they have any scratches on them, it will make it obvious that the phone has been opened. Next, check the battery health. Depending on how old the iPhone is, the battery percentage can play a big role. Generally, you don't want to buy an iPhone with a battery health lower than 80% because that means that the battery isn't able to provide the same power to the CPU anymore, which will make your iPhone significantly slower. Unless you get a really good deal and you can cash in a battery swap straight after the purchase, I'd say it's best to walk away. For newer iPhones, you generally want to aim for battery health between 94 and 98%. If the battery health is still at 100% after at least 1 year, that is somewhat fishy, and that may mean that the battery has been replaced with a non-genuine one. Apple won't replace a battery that is over 80%, and it's very unlikely that the battery will go down below 80% in 1 year, and maintaining 100% over 300 plus cycles is also very unlikely. On the 15 and 15 Pro, you can see the battery cycles, but if you're buying an older model, definitely look out for that. Make sure the iPhone is unlocked and compatible with your carrier. Depending on where you're from, it might be common practice to have your iPhones locked to a certain carrier. To check that, put your SIM into the phone you want to buy and make a few calls or browse the internet using mobile data. But don't buy locked iPhones, especially if the seller is telling you that it's very cheap to get rid of a lock, because if that were the case, the seller would have already done it because it would have been much easier for him to sell an iPhone that is not locked. A locked iPhone will remain locked forever. There's a few workarounds, but they rarely work and it's generally very unreliable. Next, let's talk about water resistance. The iPhone has an IP68 rating, which means it can go 1.5 meters underwater for 30 minutes without damage. But realistically, the iPhone can withstand much longer submersion and greater depths. It's just that the IP68 is the highest rating available, so Apple has to market it as such. However, this doesn't mean that your iPhone will survive every time without damage. And that's why Apple will cancel your warranty if they find out that your iPhone has been submerged. Now, you might ask, how does Apple know about that? The SIM card slot has a water damage indicator that turns red if the phone has been in contact with water. So to make sure that the iPhone hasn't been submerged in water, take a look at the SIM tray. If the iPhone has been in contact with water, I'd personally walk away. Now keep in mind that in the US, the new iPhones don't come with SIM card slots, so there is no way of knowing if the iPhone has been submerged in water or not without opening the phone. But you can still check the speakers. If they sound muddy, that's a red flag. Also look for the seals around the corner of the display. If the display is fogging up in the corners, it might indicate water damage. Also, take your time and test every important feature. Open the camera, go through each lens, record small videos on both front and rear cameras because these use different microphones. Make sure the phone charges, try recording a voice memo or a voice note and listen to it back. Listen to the speakers, make sure Wi-Fi is working, check mobile data, test Touch ID, Face ID, Bluetooth, GPS, and so on. Open a few apps and make sure the iPhone is working as intended. You don't want to find out something isn't working when you already bought the phone. For example, if it's a Japanese import, there is no way to turn up the shutter sound when you take a picture, even if the phone is in silent mode. Also, while you're testing everything, take a look at the battery and see how it changes while you use the phone. Make sure to go to Apple's site and do a serial number check to ensure that the phone hasn't been reported stolen or refurbished. If the model number in settings starts with an F, that means that the iPhone has been refurbished by Apple or a carrier. Also, don't get too invested with the original packaging. Nowadays, the knockoffs are the same as the original ones. They have the same copy of print, material, and even things like original seals and hidden holograms that you can only see under ultraviolet lights. And this is why you don't put so much value on the serial number. Somebody could open a new box and take out the original cable, take out the original display, battery, replace it with knockoffs, and seal everything back together, and the serial number will tell you that the iPhone is new and it has not been activated. The serial number is only important for knowing if the phone is under warranty, been stolen, or is refurbished. Also, make sure that the serial number on the box and in the iPhone settings is the same. It's kind of a no-brainer, but sometimes you forget to check the smaller things. If it's an Apple refurbished iPhone, that's okay, but you should try to negotiate the price. However, if it has been refurbished by anyone other than Apple, I'd walk away. So, to recap, check for physical damage, verify battery health, ensure it's unlocked, check for water damage, test all features, verify the serial number and refurbished status. Make sure the price isn't too low, because if it's much lower than the usual market price, that is concerning. Usually when the price is too low, people will tell you that they need money as soon as possible and that's why we're selling it, but don't believe that and look for fair prices. I know everybody wants a good deal, but usually if a deal is too good to be true, there's probably something sketchy about it. Remember that parts and repairs may cost a fortune. So before buying something broken or sketchy, remember that you're trying to make a profit. And there is no reason to buy something that will eventually cost more than a new device. By following these steps, you'll be well on your way to finding a great deal. And always be ready to walk away and not buy anything, even if you really want to. Never let your emotions control your actions, because as soon as you're gonna be home, the buyer's remorse will hit hard. At the end of the day, it's your money and you're gonna have to use the phone or find ways to get rid of it. So always keep that in mind. With that said, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.